Okay, you're over there in India with other ministers for this G20 summit. We've seen in the US and UK a worse story than us in terms of inflation and rate rise after rate rise after rate rise, not allowing it to decrease or forcing it to decrease. What have you been able to learn, or what are your fears out of talking to them at the moment?
Well, I think there's a path for the global economy, but it's still an incredibly narrow path with the inflation challenge on one side and a big global downturn on the other. And so everybody here is trying to navigate that narrow and perilous path. We do have a big inflation problem in the global economy and in our own economy. Even though the peak of inflation is likely to be behind us, it'll still be higher than we'd like for longer than we'd like. Big reason for that's the war in Ukraine. There are global factors there as well, but there are issues in our own supply chains. And that's why relief for people doing it tough, repairing our supply chains and showing restraint in the budget, such important components of our three-part plan to get on top of this inflation challenge. You know, I think it is an unfortunate sign of the times that even in one of, if not the best economy in the G20, we still have extreme pressure on our people. The government is very alive to that. We feel like we have a better chance of getting to some of these global pressures when we engage in a meaningful, respectful way, and that's why I'm in India doing that.
Well, for a while now, you've been saying that you're confident the number one issue in Australia is inflation and there will be no recession in Australia. Do you still hold that view?
Yeah, that's still our expectation. But inflation is the defining challenge in our economy. It's the defining challenge in the global economy. We can't be complacent about that. As we walk this tightrope between getting on top of inflation and trying to guard against a more severe downturn, there are a series of fine judgments and fine balances to strike. And the difference in the May budget to the October budget is in October we had the peak of inflation in front of us, in May likely behind us. At some future point, the focus will shift from inflation to growth, but for the time being, inflation is the main game. It's true of the world and it's true of us.
And I guess there's this speculation Phil Lowe might not be renewed by the government in September. And the government could then turn over a new leaf. Travelling with Phil Lowe, working with Phil Lowe, how does that play into your relationship with the governor? How much truth is there to it?
I've got a terrific relationship with Governor Lowe. He's someone I've known for a really long time. I knew him well even before I became the Treasurer. And I have a respectful working relationship with him. And when we come to the G20, we work together to put the Australian view as would expect of us. We'll come to a view on the governorship of the Reserve Bank closer to the middle of the year after we get the Reserve Bank review at the end of March and consider its recommendations. But the review and the appointment won't be about any one decision or set of decisions. It will be about who's best placed to take the bank forward into the future based on what we run with from the Reserve Bank review. But that doesn't change that I have a very good, very respectful relationship with Phil Lowe. I have for a long time. He's got a difficult job to do, get on top of this inflation without crunching our economy. He's focused on that. I'm focused on my job. And part of my job is making sure that the Reserve Bank is set up in its structures and objectives and processes to do the best job it can on behalf of the Australian people.